My name is Jenny Choi, and I'll be presenting on childhood obesity. Obesity occurs when a person has an excess amount of body fat and is commonly measured through BMI, the body mass index. A person's BMI can be found by dividing their weight in kilograms with their height in meters squared. Because children are constantly growing, a child's BMI is not enough to determine their weight status. Instead, a child's BMI must be compared to the BMIs of other children of their same age and gender. The CDC defines an overweight child as having a BMI of greater than or equal to the 85th percentile of the BMIs of other children in their same age and gender group. The CDC defines an obese child as having a BMI of greater than or equal to the 95th percentile of the BMIs of other children of their same age and gender. In the 1970s, only 5 to 7% of all U.S. youth were considered to be obese. In 2016, the childhood obesity rate had tripled to be 18.5% of all youth, which translates to 13.7 million obese children in the United States alone. Of these children, 25.8% were Hispanic, 22.0% were African American, 14.1% were Caucasian, and 11.0% were of Asian heritage. While children of all races have been getting more obese, certain races are more susceptible to childhood obesity. Childhood obesity is caused by a lack of understanding of the body's nutritional and physical needs. In order to determine the factors that cause this phenomenon, one must determine what influences a child's relationship with food. Previous factors that have been championed to cause childhood obesity, such as the lack of access to healthy food through food deserts and the belief that only certain races in certain regions have higher obesity rates, have been proven to be untrue, with people having greater access to healthy food than ever before, and obesity rates increasing across racial and geographical lines. Developmental psychologist Yuri Bronfenbrenner created the ecological systems theory as a model of child development, and Maida Galvez et al. Applied the EST to childhood obesity so as to place the issue in the context of the community to learn all of the influencing factors. In this diagram of the ecological systems theory, you can see three tiers of influence on a child's weight status. The first tier, child characteristics and child risk factors, refers to the influences that a child has on their own weight, such as what foods they choose to eat and their level of physical activity. The second tier refers to the influences that a parent has on their child's relationship with food, such as the parent's own food preferences and the amount of time that they spend in sedentary behaviors, such as watching TV. Because children learn from watching what their parents do, parental behaviors as well as the parents' own relationships to food have an impact on their child's weight status as well. Finally, the third tier refers to structural elements in the community that influences a child's weight status. These include such environmental characteristics as the influence of the community on the lifestyle choices of parents and societal norms that inform the cultural environment. Having safe spaces to play outside, such as parks, is correlated with an increase in physical activity, as parents are more willing to let their children play outside. The presence of school lunch programs influences what a child eats during school hours. Societal norms tend to see food as a reward, which is dangerous because it reassures people that are suffering from unhealthy relationships with food that food is always a reward, resulting in overconsumption and having excess body fat. One must consider all three tiers of influence, the child, the parent, and the community, in order to establish an effective policy of intervention. It is important to combat childhood obesity because it is associated with the development of nutrition-related chronic diseases, such as diabetes, coronary heart disease, and other cardiovascular disorders, the development of sleep apnea, and orthopedic problems caused by an abundance of weight. There is up to an 80% chance that an obese child will continue to be obese through adulthood, which only increases their health risks as they age. Childhood obesity also has many psychological consequences. Called one of the most stigmatizing and least socially acceptable conditions in childhood, obese children are at a higher risk of having low self-esteem due to bullying and body dissatisfaction. They are also more likely to have eating disorders and/or disordered eating habits due to their unhealthy relationships with food. Furthermore, the rise in childhood obesity has societal costs in both the healthcare and the labor market, as obese children are more likely to be less attentive and struggle more academically, as they miss more school due to their chronic illnesses related to having excess body fat. In order to combat the rise of childhood obesity rates, we must commit to a multi level approach that supports healthy relationships with food at all tiers of influence: the child, the parent, and the community. We must also discourage sedentary behaviors that perpetuate the cycle of childhood obesity and encourage physical activity instead.